we can have a dialogue. This is going to be very important. Obviously, this two sessions today. What I'm going to be covering is two topics. One is roles in an organization or a company, and the second one is on professionalism. And they both are very much tied together in the sense that, as you can imagine, once you start working in any company or any industry after your graduation, you obviously have to be a professional, so to speak, when you start working out from your school and college life and going into your work life. And then within the company or within the organization, you will obviously get to know who are all the people working in that company, who are all the your colleagues or your co-workers, and more importantly, what is the role or what is the responsibility, so to speak, again, on everybody's job at work. Obviously, some of you may be joining as some kind of an engineer, whether it's in a computer industry or in automotive industry or a manufacturing industry, mechanical, electrical, doesn't matter. When you join a company, you will be given some specific tasks to do. But then after maybe your first few months, maybe 6 months or 1 year, depends on the company, you will be then absorbed into some department or some function, and then you'll be given a specific role to play. And that role to play or the responsibility to do a particular job will depend on your function, your company, your company's business, and so on. Okay, so I will share my screen and I have some slides, of course, for both the presentations. First 1 hour, I will cover roles in an organization, and the second 1 hour, I'll cover professionalism. So I'll have slides, but again, feel free to stop me while I'm going. The particular slides, what I'll be presenting today for the roles in an organization are primarily for the computer software industry. But as I said, I am myself not from the computer industry. I'm from the manufacturing or automotive R&D industry. So the roles in my company are a bit different from the computer, but not very different. Some of them are very similar. Just the terminologies will be different. So I'll get started. All okay? So let's have a thumbs up before we get started. I see already 126 of you on the call. Yeah. All right, so I think we'll get started. I'll share my screen. Just a moment. Hi, Ganpat. I'm not able to share anything. It's oh no, sorry for that. Can you see my screen? Can somebody raise a hand or say yes? Just to confirm, you can see my screen. Oh, you can. Okay. Okay. So I will go back. Give me just a moment. Okay. Can you just confirm one more time whether you can see my screen? Anyone?
Yes, Abhay, so we can see a screen.
Oh, you can. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to the presentation mode. So again, if somebody wants to interrupt me while I'm going through the presentation, I will take a stop in between as well. But after some 2 or 3 slides, to see who is typing in the window, because I'm in the full screen, so I may not be able to see exactly who is asking question. But feel free to stop me as you just confirm that you can see the screen. So please stop me. Okay, so we go through the presentation. So various roles in a software organization. So this is the today's topic. So uh, just to start with, why you should pay attention, in the sense why you should know what are the roles in a particular organization. So as it's clearly said here, so any job, whether it's in the technology sector or a software sector, of course, primary information available, or everybody feels that it is basically to become a developer. A developer is basically to start the coding and start developing any particular software for any application. But it's not only a developer job or a coding job which is existing in a software company. There is a lot more to it. For example, there might be someone of you, of course, some of you may like coding, which is the basic coding, whether you use a C or a C++ or any other new language, could be anything, and you like coding. That's perfectly fine. However, some of you may say, no, I don't like coding, but I still want to be in the software industry to do something different. Then, as it is said here, if you're not particularly into programming or software development from a coding point of view, there are other jobs definitely available for you other than the coding. And today in this session, we will cover what are all those jobs or what are all those roles in the organization which you can cover if you're in the software industry. And again, as it said here, today we have only 1 hour. So the purpose of this particular session is to just give you a over, like a snapshot of what are all the roles in the company. Some roles will obviously in some companies may be merged, some may be even more disintegrated or fragmented. It depends on company to company, but in generally speaking, you will at least get a flavor of what these roles are in this particular software company which we are talking about. Company, you can name the any company. It could be Infosys or Wipro or TCS or any product company or a service company. But let's for argument's sake, let's let's consider this as a product company, something like XYZ, whatever. And then that is of course in a software industry. So this is typical. These are typically the roles which you will typically see or hear when you join any particular company. So, what are all these roles? So, if you see here the like a list of about 9 or 10 roles, the first one is of course the software developer or the programmer. It is what I just said in the initial start of the presentation or start of this session. Is it is more at the primarily at the back end, because it's more on the programming side. So it means you're writing a code, you're developing a code, and the code will then do something. That do something will be, of course, at the front end in terms of the graphics, the user interface, and so on. But primarily, the software developer or the programmer function or role is somebody asking a question. I saw a ping, so I'm just waiting. Sorry for that. Yeah, I think Surya, you raised a hand. You have a question. Feel free to unmute and say something. Surya, you raise your hand, so I'm waiting. No, just a mistake. Okay. Okay, Surya, if you have a question later, you can definitely again type in the chat box, or you can ask anytime. No problem. Yeah? I will continue with the presentation. Okay, so one is on the software developer or the programmer. Then the second is on the DevOps, and I will cover a bit more about this in the slides to come. Then you have something called as a security engineer or a network engineer. Then the actual performance engineers. Then you have the architect, the core software architect. However, as I said here, for to become an architect, you need to have a lot of experience in the industry. You need to be a bit of a senior in the industry to get this kind of an experience. Then you have the so-called quality assurance, the QA engineer. The primary role of a QA engineer is to take the software which is developed, see the use of that software, and go through several test cases which will test the software for all kinds of functionalities, whether they're working or not working, or giving any errors or bugs, or not giving the right result, and so on. Which is why it is called here the nitpicker, because they are the ones who will really test the software being developed and the program being developed, both from the back end side and the front end side. But of course, the feedback will be given to the respective teams. Then there is also the so-called development lead, team lead, tech lead. So somebody who leads the entire development team or a product development team is called a development lead. Somebody who leads a pure technical side of the software development is like a tech lead. And then there are sometimes who are people managers who are called maybe team leads. So everybody has a typical role to play when you are in a big organization or a big company and developing something which is a big product for the customer. And then last but not the least, you have somebody called as a data scientist, somebody who's purely into the core R&D of the information, where the data is researched, and the scientist's job is to make sure that the information is provided to those developer teams and the development team, the DevOps, and so on, so they can actually understand whether their information is true, and whether that information, how they can use that information which is available in terms of data to kind of manage that data, interpolate the data, extrapolate the data for the development of that particular software. So these are typically the technology related roles what are given. Now I will of course take a pause and go one by one. I again see somebody raise a hand, so let me check. No, sorry. Okay, I thought somebody raised a hand. My bad. So before we get into the actual roles, here is something more interesting, also quite interesting. So what are then the typical popular roles in a product or a tech setup, which is typically, as I said, it's in a product development team. So one is on the business inclination side. One is like a product manager or a data analyst, the UI UX designers. It means, can I just interrupt somebody and ask you, do you know anybody has heard UI UX? Can somebody raise your hand and tell me? I'm pretty sure some of you would have. Anybody? What is UI UX? Anybody can raise a hand or type in the type window. Anyone ever heard the term UI UX? No? Any idea what it could be? Okay, Kanaga Lakshmi has raised a hand. Kanaga Lakshmi, can you? Samana has also said yes. Yeah, what is it? Can you unmute or type and write or say anything? Okay. Kanaga? Oh, okay, somebody has typed. 1 second. Or Kamana, sorry. Making web page or application attractive, responsive. Making, okay, Khushbu has typed, making web page or application attractive. That's true. To make a web page or application attractive, responsive. But can you tell me what is the U in the UX or the UI? What is the meaning of U? User interface. Perfectly right. UI is user interface. So the important thing here, thank you, Vijayata. So important thing here is the user. So why I wanted to take a break and ask the question is very important is the user part. When we are doing a development project, when we are doing something of a development of this software, the user is the one who is finally going to use, of course, and experience the product. So it means whatever is the user, the way the user sees your particular either the web page or the functionality of the software and so on, that is extremely important. And that is something which you always need to keep in mind about the user. Let me just digress a bit and go to some other industry. We are talking about software industry. Everybody knows how to use Google and Apple and so on and all these applications. So you know what a user interface is when you're in front of your laptop or on your phone. But if you go to any other industry, let's say an automotive industry, and that's my background, so I'm just using that as an example. So there, who is the user? Very simple, right? Who is the user? Anybody? The user of an automobile or the user of a car. Who is using the car? It's us or we, right? So it means we say that we are the customer of a particular brand or a model of a car, which is being developed and introduced into the market. Now, I'll not go into much detail, but for example, when in the automotive sector, whether you are in R&D or manufacturing or sales and marketing or product planning and so on, as a if you are in a role in a company where you are making a product, let's say it's a Tata Motors or a Mahindra or a Maruti, they also follow a very similar pattern of customer experience and customer interface. It means that if you are the customer of that end product, you need to know as a company who is making that product what your user will like in that product. That is called as user interface or user experience. UX is nothing but user experience in the software industry, and UI is user interface. Similarly, in the automotive industry, we have something called as customer experience. We don't call it CX, we just call it customer experience, but the meaning is the same. The rationale behind that is the same. So the customer experience is very important for any product. And then it's not only about these big products. You can even think about the phone, think about the TV, think about a fridge, any consumer product. Important thing here is what your customer will think. So if I go back to the presentation, why I wanted to take a pause is this is extremely important to know who are all those UX UI designers. The UX UI designers are extremely important. It says here the mind reader. It means what it means essentially is they have to read the mind of the user or the customer who is going to experience that particular product which the company is going to roll out, either a fresh new product or an enhancement of the product. This is very important. Then you have someone called as the business analyst on the business side, product engineers, somebody who is the uh, key person who is actually making that product for that particular customer or the user. So these are all the business related team. Then there is also somebody called as on the people management side. So for example, the development manager. So if you are on the people management side, if you are a development manager, you need to make sure that the all the team of members who are working, all the team of members who are working on a particular project, they have that required experience and technical skills. You need to have that to manage those people, because the development manager is responsible for the so-called output from each of those team members working. Likewise, if we go to the next page, our next bullet point, a program manager or a scrum manager or a project manager, these are also very key people or key roles in a particular company. The program manager is kind of responsible for the entire program. The project manager within that program or in a group of programs, a project manager is responsible to make sure the deliveries of that particular project, the timeline of that particular project is met. It means every project will have its own milestone, and every milestone will have its own metrics behind the milestone. So the project manager is the one who needs to make sure that all those project milestones are met with the right metrics so that the program goes ahead and the deliveries are not affected. The overall, including the cost management and the time management, is usually the responsibility of the program manager. But the project manager's responsibility is primarily to make sure the project moves at the right speed and the right quality to make sure that the end result is achieved at the right time and there is no delay in the particular project. And last but not the least is the product owner or the decision maker. So it means that you have all these business team, you have the people management and the development team, you have a program manager or a project manager. So this is the entire team. But then as a owner of the product, which is going to be released, let's say in the market for a particular group or a set of customer or a user, you have to make sure as a product owner that whatever is being developed or is developed is the right product to introduce in the market. And then the key important point here is that person is a decision maker. It means that once it is decided that the product is to be released in the market, even after development is complete, that product will do well in the market. There has to be some kind of a anticipation of the product owner to make sure that it is successful in the market. Of course, some situations when you are working in a company, that may not be the case. You release a product and you find out that your product has some, it lacks something. That happens. Then you need to probably refresh the product, which is why you particularly see sometimes a product being released and then you within a few months or a year, you see a refresh in that. It is primarily to, again, make sure that the product is in tune with the requirement of the market or the requirement of the consumer or the user. So these are the popular roles in a product or a tech setup. I'll take a pause. I want to understand if there is any question on the table. Anybody, any question, any doubt? Please feel free to ask anything. I have, of course, the following slides will explain a bit more in detail on who or what these people essentially do. But I just want to take a pause and ask some question if you have any. Any question? Anybody okay, team? We have 129 people, students. Any question is okay. Feel free. Don't feel shy at all. Anything? Anybody wants to type something? No? Okay, no question. So I'll go ahead and then we'll take questions at the end. Okay. So then in addition to the regular product development team, including a program team or a project team or a development team, there are some other departments in a particular company. For example, you are in the product development team, you have a particular product, you have developed the product, but then there are also some team members who are in sales or pre-sales. It means somebody who knows the product which the team is developing. They are to make sure that they sell the product to a group of user or a group of people who will buy that product. Or it could be even from a company to company, like a B2B model. Then there are some who are who are kind of marketing. And here we are talking about more digital marketing. So it means the product which is being developed need to be marketed to the buyer. So this is all the digital marketing. These are the digital marketing function. Then there is also called customer implementation or customer support. It means once the product is rolled out into the market, and then of course, as you can imagine, if you have a difficulty to execute or to operate some of the product which is being released, you don't know what to do. Obviously, you are not going to be in a position to reach out to the development team directly. But then you know there is something called as customer support that typically the 1-800 number or something which you need to call for anything that you get stuck on, or you're not able to do that particular function. So these are the team, particularly at the back end. They are called customer support. This team of customer support will make sure that they try to resolve or address the concern raised by the consumer or the user of that particular software or the product. Then there are a finance team or business analyst. So obviously somebody who is at the cost controlling side. They know how much the investment has gone into developing a particular product, and whether after selling the product it is making business sense. These are typically the business analyst, and also on the finance side, somebody who finances the whole software development, and end of the day, whether the sales and marketing team spending is realized into a customer sale and so on. And last but not the least, there are sometimes some designations called consultant, application engineer, implementation engineers. Some of these are very micro roles in some companies. The meaning of an application engineer could be a bit vague, but sometimes it means that for a particular industry, how you make sure that the product which is developed is used by the consumer. It is also called an application engineer, somebody who can teach or somebody who can guide the particular user on how to use the product. They are typically application engineers, or sometimes they're also called implementation engineers. It means the software which is developed by the coding team and the development team, and after it goes through the quality and test, how to implement that into the consumer, like the interface between the development team and the company and the end user. These are sometimes called implementation engineers. Okay, so we now go to a bit more detail on at least the key roles in the development team. I'm not going to cover on the sales or marketing side or the finance side, but on the core development team, and then we will see. I would like to really ask some questions. If you can ask questions, yeah. Okay, first to begin with, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, the first role in the team is of a software developer. So what does this software developer typically do? Just it's kind of a generic a day in the life of a software developer. If you are a software developer, or if you want to become a software developer, you need to kind of understand that typically the first half in the morning on a particular working day, you will go through the reviewing of the code. You will typically have your planning and prioritizing meeting with your immediate team manager or team leader, or sometimes even the product owner and the project manager. So the morning is usually spent in planning. Very important. Always in the morning of any single given work day, need to plan. Of course, everybody needs to plan, but as a software developer, you really need to know what is it that you need to achieve at the end of the day. So the morning time has to be particularly spent in planning and prioritizing, because you may have a lot of plans, but within the plan, if you have 6 or 8 or 10 things to do, what should be first? What should be second? You need to prioritize. And sometimes you have to prioritize by yourself and then give the proposal to your team lead and get the agreement. Or sometimes with the discussion with the team, you can come up with prioritizing of the task. This is planning and prioritizing. This is primarily the time you need to spend in the morning. Then you actually start writing the code, or if you have already written some code, you kind of debug the existing code after going through some quick test within your own system. And then, of course, you have to also collaborate with the developers and the testers. It means somebody who is already testing at a macro level your written code. You need to work with them. You need to get the feedback from the testing team, because then you can update, or you can revise your code to remove those bugs and so on. So this is typically the afternoon time spent. And then, of course, later in the evenings, you basically once again go back to your team meetings on some other projects, or develop the code, or even have a session with your manager on how the day went by and what you could achieve in that day. So this is typically the life of a particular software developer from the morning into the evening. Then, if you're in DevOps, So you're not typically a coder or a developer, but you are into actually deploying the new software. Typically, your morning would be then spent in deploying the new software, monitoring the entire system performance, and responding to some alerts. It means the coding team has already done the coding. It is now into the system for checking of the overall performance of the things which it intends to do and give the output. That is nothing but system performance. So you have to monitor the entire system on which it is running and then kind of respond to those alerts. This is the typical morning time for a DevOps. In the afternoon, you would typically spend more time collaborating with the development and operations team, automating certain processes and improving the reliability of the system. So as you can imagine, sometimes the code is written, a code is a code, but sometimes there could be something else which can be done on top of writing a code. You can automate a certain system or a process. It means further automation or further coding or updating the code to automate a certain process which typically will take manual operations. This is automating the processes and improving the reliability of the entire system. This is the another responsibility of a DevOps. And then finally, at the end of the day, you start integrating the all the software which is written. You have your delivery pipelines. You start exploring new technologies and so on. Because as a DevOps, you need to understand on the application side as well as on the development side. So this is typically a DevOps engineer role. Okay. Then should I take a pause? Maybe I'll take a pause for a moment. Any question? Is it clear? Are you with me on this? Can somebody ask any question or in the chat window? All okay? Can you give a either a okay or a thumbs up? Or I see it's Tuesday morning, so it's should be everybody should be fresh. Anyone? Okay, maybe I'll ask a question. In this team, you have 122 people of you on the call. Who is interested in coding? Can you just raise a hand or just send a thumbs up? Who is interested in coding? How many of you are interested in coding? Okay, at least I see one hand go up, one thumbs up. Okay, one more. Khushbu. Anyone else? Okay, so what I'll do is I will spend the rest of the time in explaining the remaining roles, and then let's see at the end of the session, which role would you want to do? I'll just open a quiz at the end. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. So let me go back to DBA. So DBA is nothing but a database analyst. So what is the life of a DBA? It means that the responsibility of the DBA is basically to do the design of the database. So what the database should entail, what it should have, what it should cover is nothing but the database design. Then to optimize the design and performance tuning. So all the databases which are existing, which will have a lot of information, data, and so on, somebody needs to have a design of the database, and this is the typical output or typical job of a database analyst. Then also backup recovery and security management, because the data is extremely important. When you have data, you need to have a backup of the data, because if you lose the data, cannot retrieve any information. The server has to be secure and the recovery system has to be robust to make sure that your data is fully recovered. And then security management, as all of you know, and all of you have heard a lot of things on information security. I hope, or some of you have probably covered that in your sessions. Information security is extremely important. All the data which has to be protected, whether it is personal data, a company specific data, or your own uh, organization data, all that data has to be very, very carefully secured. Very important. And then you may have database issues, and you need to troubleshoot them and stay updated on the database trends and so on. So this is the role of a typical database analyst, the DBA. Then quality assurance. So as we said here, the nitpicker. So the quality assurance engineer is nothing but you have a quality assurance team. Typically in any organization, even the big organizations like Google and Apple and Microsoft and so on, they will have a big function of a QA. Can anybody tell me why QA is important? Anybody before I go to the roles? Why QA is important? Anyone? Feel free to type again or unmute and say something. Simple question, right? Why QA is important? Any ideas, any thoughts? Want me to explain a bit more? Is it understood what is QA? No? Can you raise a hand if you want to explain a bit more on QA? Can somebody raise a hand or type in the chat? Okay, maybe you're still wondering what is the actual meaning of a QA engineer. Let me explain one more time. So when you are developing a product or a system, you have, as a product engineer or as a program engineer, you have used your skill, your knowledge to create a code or a software, back end as well as front end, the UI UX what we talked about, and then you have written your code, you have operationalized it, you have through the DevOps team and everyone, you have established the system and prepared a output which is used by the consumer. However, the QA team, the skill of a QA team is different from a coder. The QA team is then supposed to take that exists, the software which is developed, and put it through a rigorous testing process. What it means is, as it said here, the basic QA engineer role in the morning is to review the requirement and test cases and create test plans. So it means you need to understand the software, what the software is supposed to do, what kind of functionality it is going to offer, and then start creating some test plans. That what it means of by creating a test plan is if a user, so put yourself in user shoes. That's the role of a quality assurance engineer. You put yourself in the user shoes as if, even though you are a QA engineer in that function, let's assume that you have to put the hat of somebody who's actually going to be using in the market or outside the company. So if you are the user of this particular product, you need to put it through the test cases. You need to understand what are all the different scenarios or different test cases, different way of using that particular software. And then you need to start creating the test plan that if I go through step 1, 2, 3, 4, what happens? If I go through step 1, 4, 3, 2, what happens? If I go through a step 5, 6, 7, 8, what happens? I mean, there are various ways as a user will use the system. Sometimes you will create a back button, sometimes you will not create a back sometimes you will not use a back button, but you will use the back button in the browser. Anything can happen. So all these test cases, as an example, I'm just giving an example. The system has to still work under all circumstances. Otherwise, it is going to be a very painful experience for the user to use your software. So the quality assurance engineer has to then create all those test cases and test plans and actually execute the test cases in the software which is being developed. Then obviously, as you can imagine, when you are developing the software for the very first time, it will not be 100% accurate. It will not be 100% perfect. It will have its own issues, defects. Then the QA has to go back to the developer or the coder and the integrator integration team and make sure that those issues are resolved. That's the QA role. And then when an upgraded version of the software is re-released, then you need to same use those same test cases to put it through the revised code and see if that works now, which used to fail before. This is the role of QA engineer. And then last but not the least, analyze all the test results, participate in the reviews, and further automation can be done in software. So you have to suggest some kind of alternatives to automation. As you can imagine, the QA engineer also may have certain limitations, but if you're a good QA engineer, you put it through all the test cases, sometimes even more stringent or more strict to than the actual usage which a user may use. Your software will be rest assured will work for all the general usage of that particular software in the market. This is extremely important. Otherwise, as you can imagine, there will be a lot of dissatisfaction for a consumer who is using the product. And this is the role of a QA engineer to make sure that the complaints or the system breakdown or the code being returning some error message, which as you can imagine, right, it's very irritating if I'm using a software and if it gives a error message. I lose the confidence in that particular software or the company. The QA engineer role is extremely important from that viewpoint. It is the responsibility of the QA engineer to assure that the product works the way it is supposed to work. Any question now? Again, take a pause. Any query? Any question? How it is done? Who should do it? Whose responsibility? Because we're discussing roles in an organization. It's not that only one person has all the roles, right? It's a team of people. Anyone? All right, let me continue. Okay, then I have we have time. So then the next role in the overall process is that of a project manager. So a project manager, as you can imagine, a project manager is somebody, as I said, is very important for scheduling, time management. It means you have to plan the project, you have to decide based on your company rules and your company processes, what are all those milestones or deadlines to execute a particular project, and the reviews, of course, because sometimes when you do a project planning, you also need to make sure that after some initial time, you need to put a full stop and say we need to review how the project is going. So the reviewing is also very important in our scheduling and planning, scheduling, and budgeting. So here, as it said, the cost control is also the responsibility of the project or manager. And then important thing is the stakeholder management, team coordination, and progress tracking. The project manager is supposed to keep a track on every function, whether they are working as per the project plan or if anything is delayed, and how to recover that project plan to make sure that the project is achieved and project completion happens on time. The end goal is, of course, completion of the project. But to complete a project, you have to go through the various steps in the development process. And in this process, each and every time is important. So the scheduling, the planning, the scheduling, including cost control, coordination, very important. And then when there are issues for someone, it's called risk management or issue resolution. You need to also make sure to offer some advice or offer some suggestion to the team to how to recover that particular schedule. That is also the responsibility of the project manager. And of course, the project manager is then finally responsible to report the status to the overall program product owner or the program lead. This is the responsibility of the project manager in a role. A product manager is a little bit different. The product manager is the actual software or the actual product which you are creating, the technicalities of that product and the usage of that product in the market is the responsibility of the product manager. As I said here, market research, product strategy, and roadmap development. It means the product has to be attractive to the customer. It should be more unique. It should offer some more functionality than what is existing in the market, and so on. This is the responsibility of the product manager. But of course, a product manager will have his or her own ideas, but then the product manager should work very closely with the development and design team, get more feedback from the user, whether the product will be really unique to the market, yes, no, and depends on the acceptance of that particular product in the market. Then another responsibility of the product manager is to analyze the opportunities for improvement. It means you may think that this particular product is very good to introduce in the market now, but by the time your product is actually released, it could be 6 months, 1 year, depending on the overall time frame for the development. Will it be that niche or that unique after 1 year? That kind of evaluation, that kind of studies are also required for a product manager to make sure that the product is always fresh after introduction in the market and is acceptable by the consumer as something unique than the regular other product which is similar product which is offered by the competition. So this is the role of a product manager. Okay, I think that's the end of the presentation. So I just wanted to go through all this entire presentation, and we still have time. So I really now want to encourage if you have any question, anything which you have kind of not understood, and I would like to emphasize more. Again, what I covered in the last 45 minutes or so is on the basic roles in a company or a software company. But in every company will have their own designations and own roles and own responsibilities. So any questions, any comments? Anything which is not clear? Anybody, any question? Any doubts? Somebody wants to unmute and ask question, that's perfectly okay too. Okay, we still have a few minutes. I'll be here. I'll just turn off my video. I'll take a 5 minute break, and then we will start the second session for professionalism. So just give me a 5 minute break. But in between, if you have any question, feel free to type in the window. I'll check it and reply. Okay, so let's take a 5 minute break and we'll start the next session. Thank you. So hello all. We can start the next session. All okay? Just give me a thumbs up or a okay, and then I will start the session. All okay? You can hear me properly? Just can someone confirm? Yeah, thank you, Ganpat. Anybody else? Can some of the students confirm you can hear me properly? Hello? Anyone, guys? Hello? I hope you can hear me. Okay, maybe let me ask again. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can someone confirm one more time, please? Thank you. Ganpat, I'm audible, right? Just can you confirm?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm not able to get anybody else to confirm, so I hope I'm okay. Somebody is saying something. Hello. Okay, maybe I'll ask random. Yeah, Bhuvaneshwari, can you hear me? No. Okay, Nitya, hello. Or Kalpana or Priya, hello. Can you hear me? Okay, can I start the session? Hello, hello all. Can I start the session? Without a thumbs up from someone, I will not start. Can I start the session?
Requesting all the students to respond either by using the chat option, or you can unmute yourself and speak up. But or you can even send reactions as well. Thank you.
Okay, Vijayata, thank you. Okay, so you confirmed you can hear me. Okay, let me start the session. It's time. So the second session today, what I would like to cover is on professionalism. So in the first session this morning, what we covered is basically roles in an organization. But before the roles and before the responsibilities, what you when you join a company, as I said before, you will need to know certain aspects of professionalism. Again, this is a topic which to me is very interesting. Why? Because when you are in college, when you are in school, and of course then college, and once you graduate from college, you you obviously are in a different kind of a societal environment. It means that It's good to be in college, to attend classes. More, some of you might be staying in hostels, some of you might be staying in homes, but typically, as long as you are in the class and as long as you are attentive in a college, of course, that's very important. Other than that, several other things can maybe just be excused. For example, how you look, how you dress, how you speak. Of course, you're not supposed to chat in the classroom, however, and be quiet when a lecture is going on. But generally speaking, it is not strictly monitored. Your overall behavior, your overall the way you present yourself, the way you speak, and so on. However, when you start working in a company, the moment you start get a job, and of course start working in a company, there are several set of rules or etiquettes what you need to follow, and those are basically mandatory. It is something which you have to make sure that as a professional you need to be aware, you need to be cognizant of the fact that you are being watched, you are being looked upon. Even though you're a fresh graduate engineer trainee, let's say GET, in a company you join, you will be always looked upon on several aspects, including your appearance, your way of working, your way of speaking, the way you sit, the way you walk, the way you present yourself, and so on. And today in this session, what I would like to cover, once again, I have a set of slides, but more than the slides and more than what is written in that document, it is more I would like to give you my experience and my uh, uh, few words of advice which will help you to change the way you would normally in a college or in a outside environment dress up and so-called conduct yourself. I'm not saying that it's anything is bad or anything is wrong. No, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. However, once you start working in the company, there are certain aspects you need to be very, very, very careful about, and that is what I would like to explain and tell you, so you can prepare yourself and, if necessary, change yourself when you start working in the organization. So let me present the slides for one more time. The screen. All right. Okay, one more time. Can you see the presentation? Can you see my slides? Somebody raise a thumbs up or a okay. You could see the slide. I'm assuming yes, but can someone confirm? Yeah, Vijayata, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so thanks for confirming. So professionalism. So as I said, what what when you hear the word he's a professional, what is the meaning of the word professional? So what does it mean? And what are the biggest differences between a professional and an amateur, or professional and a non-professional, or professional and somebody who is not in that profession but just doing the thing for something for their own interest or a hobby or a so-called non-professional way. So this is very critical to know. So here, as it is said here, student versus a working professional. What are the excuse me, what are the basic differences? So here, when you are typically in a college, you would say, okay, if I don't get something, or if I'm not able to, let's say, get the information what I want, we usually will say, okay, a college is responsible. So what is the difference between college is responsible versus I am responsible? When you join an organization or join in a company, you are responsible for everything. You are responsible for your own behavior, you're responsible for your own output, and you're responsible for not only about your own output, but also the so-called team output in line with the expectations of the company. So this is where you yourself will be looked upon as a role model, if you are a role model, as against the organization or the company. So this is the important thing, is to understand the difference between your responsibility and somebody else's responsibility. Then everyone follows same calendar versus I have to follow my own calendar. So when you are a professional, you are supposed to kind of have your own calendar, your own priorities, your own way of working. Whereas when you're in college, obviously you have a set of group of students, as we have in this class, following a particular lecture, a particular time schedule, and so on. Then clearly defined evaluation technique versus specific undefined criteria. So when you are in a college and taking an exam, you have certain techniques, you have certain evaluation techniques, parameters, which the college sets, and everybody gets evaluated using those same techniques. Whereas when you're in a company, in an organization, you have certain criteria which are not specified, they are undefined. As I said, it could be on your the business side, on your regular output, or on your personal behavior and characteristic and so on. Then, as it said here, classes and exams to build skills versus personal drive to learn required skills. So when you are in a professional organization and you are a professional, not only about conducting yourself and dressing up and so on, also from a learning perspective, you will not be taught. You have to self learn. In a college or in a classroom, you are typically taught a particular subject or a class, and then what are the basics of that subject, and then you take an exam and build your skills and so on. But when you are in a company, you will be given a guidance, no doubt, and you will be mentored, you will be coached. However, the urge or the desire to learn is on your own. Nobody's going to say that you learn this and you learn that. But so the more inquisitive you are, the more curious you are, the more why, asking the question why and how, you will not learn. So you have to always have this kind of a mindset where you learn on your own. Nobody's going to guide you. Of course, sometimes you learn based on your own experiences in the professional life, but more or less you have to make sure that you are learning those skills on your own and not depending on somebody else for that learning. Then, last but not the least, following instructions and directions once is an open-ended problem solving. What it means is in a school or a college, you are typically given a set of directions or a set of instructions on what to do and what not to do. But in a company or in an organization, it's all open-ended. Of course, there is a problem to solve, but the way to solve the problem, there are some techniques, no doubt. But many times the information available and what you the how you need to solve the problem not only takes time, there could be many unknowns which you have to still think about when you're solving the problem. And this is sometimes called as an open-ended problem solving. It's not that it is done, shut and close case. It doesn't happen like that. So these are some of the basic differences, and you need to understand what is a professional. Now let me give you an example. I hope everybody here likes cricket, right? Maybe let's say who all like cricket. Can somebody raise a hand or give me a thumbs up? Who likes cricket? Cricket? Who likes cricket? At least the boys in the room. Before that, somebody has a question. No. Who likes cricket? I'm assuming many, right? No one likes cricket? Can someone raise a hand who likes cricket? Someone? Anyone who likes the game of cricket? That's surprising. No one likes cricket. I like cricket. Can somebody say yes or somebody give a thumbs up or raise a hand? Okay, anyway, I'm assuming that you like cricket, so let's go ahead. So I want to give an example. Now look here on the right hand side. Two big players, right? One, of course, everybody knows, Sachin Tendulkar. The another one, I hope everybody still knows, Vinod Kamli. So Vinod Kamli and Sachin Tendulkar both, if you see, more or less had the same talent, very much at the same time and the same place. Both from Mumbai, both almost the same age, probably about 1 year apart, not more. Same school, same environment, same setup, so coming from same, more or less similar backgrounds, and so on. However, we all know what happened to one and what happened to the other. So this, why we wanted to give you this example is, obviously one of them turned professional and conducted himself or herself and went through the journey of uh, his own professional journey and made history, made his own name. Everybody in the world, at least those who follow the game of cricket, know him very, extremely, very well, right? But the other, unfortunately, for whatever reasons, was not a professional, could never conduct himself or herself in a professional way, could not learn those skills and those techniques, and basically, even though extremely talented and in that same era, could not go through the professional journey and make a mark for himself. So here the example of this is, even though you may have an extremely good talent, you may be at the right place at the right time, but if you're not a professional and if you don't imbibe those professional characteristics and learning skills and improving skills and attitude of being a true professional, the sad part is, here you have two examples, one who was extremely professional and successful, the other unfortunately not. So this is the meaning of being a professional, very important, right? Again, this picture says all. So we know this is Rahul Dravid and Sanjay Manjrekar. Again, both professional in their own rights, made a name for themselves. So these are some success stories. But what we would like to cover now is, as I kind of said before in the presentation, what is the definition of being a professional? The first and the most important in bold, the conduct, the qualities, and the aim or the goal that characterize or mark a profession or a professional person. So if you are a professional, if I am a professional working in an industry, the way I conduct, what are my goals, what are my aims, what are my learning attributes and skills and the qualities. This define a profession, or rather a professional person. Then, as I said before also in the session, a neat appearance, extremely important. Proper demeanor. What do you mean by demeanor? Is the way you conduct yourself in person, and even not only in person but even online, because when we were having COVID, there is a question. Did somebody ask a question, or maybe I missed something? No? Sorry, feel free to interrupt me if there is a question. Okay. During COVID times, we were mostly online. There was nothing in person. But still, the way you conduct yourself, the way you speak, the way you dress up, the way you behave in a online environment is called demeanor. Very important. Next bullet point, extremely important, reliable. So when you are in a professional working company, working in any organization, people should trust you. People should rely on you, and you yourself should have certain attribute of reliability. It means if your co-worker or a colleague or your bosses or sometimes your peers or your seniors in the organization give you a task or ask something from you to do and give output, they should have the confidence that the guy I'm asking to is a reliable person. It means he or she will not ignore, will not unnecessarily say yes but not actually do it, or will delay and so on, or will never give any result or output or at least some information what is being studied and so on. So this is the meaning of reliable. So you should be reliable, you should be trustworthy, you should be reliable. That's someone who will get the job done or at least make a big effort or utmost effort to get something done. That is reliability. Competent, very important, because obviously you need to have that competency and the skill to do a particular task or a job. That is, of course, very basic. You have to be competent. And of course, competency can be developed. It's not that you are competent right from the start of your working life. When you are in a college and when you graduate from college, you have acquired certain theoretical skills and some practical skills of those particular subjects or the courses that you enroll in and take it as part of your graduation. Then you graduate from college, so you have that experience, but then you don't have a professional experience. But when you join a company, at least you have a basic competency level, but you keep on building your competency level or your skill level and go to a stage where you can be an independent contributor and competent enough to work for the organization or to work to give an output for the organization. That is competency. Communicator, again, extremely important. How to communicate? Are you a good communicator? Are you able to speak well? Are you able to put your point forth? See, whenever you are in a company, uh, how you speak and what you speak is also very important. It's not about how long you speak or how much you speak, but the quality of your content of your speech is very important. It could also be question. It could also be a suggestion. Anything is okay. But the important thing is to be a good communicator and how you explain what you want to explain to somebody who is going to listen to either your proposal or your solution or your idea of a solution or idea of a problem solving and so on. So competency is or communication is extremely important. Then the good phone etiquette. So when you're on the phone, also with a colleague of you or your boss or your customer or your client, whoever, or even your supplier for that matter, your etiquette is very important. How you speak, whether you get angry, you raise your voice, or you are more calm, but putting your point forward. Yeah, sometimes you need to be also very clear in your communication, and if something you need to get done from someone, you need to still be in a very professional way, ask in a nicer way, but make sure that it is understood that there is a particular deadline for a particular task and so on. But anyway, the important thing is the etiquette of communication through a phone. Poised and ethical, more or less the same thing. Poised is to understand, to digest everything, and then speak is nothing but being poised. And ethical meaning you have to have good ethics to work in a company. You should not have any unnecessary misuse of company policies or processes, but follow the company policies and processes and systems and have an ethical behavior. This is extremely. So these are some of the definitions of the word professionalism. Then again, I'm saying the same thing, but it's really about attitude, about behavior and action. I said your attitude, your behavior and actions that tells anybody in the company you are who you are and how you are conducting yourself and your professional attribute. Again, it's also a process, not an event, not a journey. It's not a one-time thing. It can improve over time, but you need to have certain basic qualities to be a professionalism. This is the meaning of professionalism. Now, why is it important for us? It's said here very clearly. While we exhibit a lot of great traits, good technical skills, hardworking, diligent, willing to sacrifice, as you know, the entire reputation of our country in general, and it's changing for good, which is a good thing. But today, the reputation of India is, yeah, people are good, they are educated, they are highly skilled, very hardworking, willing to go out and sacrifice. However, there is also a bad side. What is the bad side? There are certain areas where we have earned a bad reputation on changing some of the attributes. For example, if it's as is shown down below here, when you are representing India and you may hear certain word, as it said here, what do you think our areas we specialize in? IST. You know what is IST? Can somebody tell me what is IST? I'll take a pause here. What is IST? You know what is IST, right? Anybody? Anybody heard the word, the term IST? No? Somebody want to say it or somebody wants to type? You heard Indian Standard Time? Has anyone heard of this? Indian Standard Time? Can somebody raise a hand or say yes? No one heard IST? I hope some of you may have heard. Okay, let me ask Vijayata. Hello? Hello, Vijayata. You heard what is IST? I just said that Indian Standard Time. So many of you would have heard the term IST, Indian Standard Time. Actually, it is not a good term because everybody says, "Oh, we will meet you at 5 o'clock." But 5 o'clock IST, everybody knows when somebody says 5 o'clock IST, it's not 5 o'clock. You'll probably come at 5:10, 5:15, 5:20. But this is very bad. This is not a good professional attitude to have. When you say that you will meet somebody at some XX point XX amount of at that time, you should be there at the time, even few minutes before. This is what is expected. And globally, when you start working in India or outside India, honoring time is extremely important. Meeting time is extremely important. So never use the word, okay, we will meet you at this IST. No, say we'll meet you at this time, and that is the time you need to keep. Second point, a yes doesn't mean a yes. Sometimes in organizations or even in companies and as a culture, sometimes we say yes to everything. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this on time? Or can you do this in one day? Yes. But when you say yes, and in your mind and in reality, you already know that it is very difficult to do that particular task in one day or 1 hour or 2 days, which is being asked, don't say yes. It's okay to say no, but you have to give a commitment. When you say no, I cannot do it in one day. However, I will do it in, let's say, 1.5 days or 2 days or 2.5 days. The person who is asking you this will then, at least one thing, he or she will be happy to know that you are being honest, that you are saying, no, I cannot do it in one day. Why? You may have certain other priorities which you are already working on in a company. So to do a particular thing which is suddenly asked by your management or your boss, sorry, you cannot do in that one day time. But given one more day, you will finish what you are doing already doing, and then start working on this new request coming in from maybe your boss or your team co-worker and so on. This is important. So don't say yes just because yes because your boss asked you yes or your colleague asked you yes when you yes when to do something when you know you're not going to be able to do it in that particular time. Of course, if somebody who is requesting needs it urgently, he or she may go to someone else, but that's perfectly fine. The reason being, if somebody asks you and when you say yes, and if you don't deliver it the day you had promised, that is unprofessional behavior. extremely bad. Nobody then will trust you. Nobody will place confidence in you. Nobody will say you are a reliable person. No, because you lied. You said you will do it, but you did not do it. That is the very worst thing to happen in an organization. So please bear this in mind. Then we know a queue is meant to be broken. Some people are invisible. What does it mean? We always want to break into the line. When there is a proper queue or a line in front of a window, whether you go for any reservation, whether you go for any boarding a bus or a train and so on, why don't we follow a system where we have a queue, a line? Everybody should get in, people should get out, and we think that people don't look at us, people don't observe us, but people do. But why do we do this? Even this is something which is in our country not strictly followed, but as individuals, at least we can make an effort to change that and not be the way others are doing. Try to form a line, try to be in the queue and follow the queue and follow the line. Hygiene and cleanliness, extremely important. As I said in the initial part of this session, your conduct, your behavior, the way you dress, the way you speak. So, the way you dress and the way you are presentable is what is extremely important. Why? It's kind of what is shown here, is written here as hygiene and cleanliness. You have to make sure that you are hygienic, you are clean, not any clothes, nothing spilled on your shirt or your trouser or your dress, and in general, having a good presentable appearance and look. So very important to have extremely good hygiene and cleanliness. These are the traits which are highly valued and important, especially when you start working in a global company and a global organization. But even if you're working locally here in India, also every company is now looking at this as a trait of individuals working in the organization. Last but not the least, jugaad. So of course I don't like the word that jugaad so much. Somehow we want to do something, but it's not professional. Please believe me, it's not a professional way to do jugaad. Jugaad is just a term which we use to somehow do something, but that's not appreciated well because it's not a proven technique. It's not the regular process. So please don't try to use jugaad in your professional life. It may work in your other personal life or in your college life, but once you turn a professional, you have to follow the systems and the processes which are being established by the company. Let's turn our attention on a bit on communication, right? So a communication, and it could be any means of communication, all forms of communication, whether it is email, chat, telepresence. Very important to have a proper means of communication and to make sure that your communication is clear. What you want to say is very clear. What you want to request is very clear. People should be able to understand what you want to say. As it's shown here, if some peer is slow in understanding, be patient. It can happen that if you are speaking and if you're saying something, if you're too fast, some other person may not understand what you are saying. So slow down. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a rush to finish your sentence, and make sure that the other person understand. You have to also have that patience because everybody's understanding may not be the same as what you are saying. So you have to be really slow and be patient when you are presenting something or when you are explaining something. Stop email messages back and forth. Get on a call. This you will get to see this in any company you join. It happens to me also. Even now, many times I see many email exchanges happening, and with a lot of a group of people in CC, which who have sometimes nothing directly to contribute to that to solving that particular issue or a problem. But you will see that when you see a set of a couple of email exchanges without going anywhere, stop it. Get on a phone call, call the person or call the people in a meeting room, discuss together and solve the issue. This is something also a very important trait of being a professional. Otherwise, as you can imagine, too many email exchanges with no progress on a particular topic which is being solved or a particular issue which is being resolved is a waste of time for everyone, not only you, but also your co-workers, your bosses, your stakeholders, and so on. So extremely important to stop unnecessary email exchange. Then verbal, email, group, private message, body language. All these are again the terms which you can probably understand by itself. How many people you need to include in the email? You decide. Don't include people who are not contributing, as I said, to the problem solving. Those who are not relevant. Do not include them just because you want to include them. No, it's okay to exclude them because they're not going to be helpful for you to solve an issue. Group message and a private message. Sometimes a group message may work if the information to be shared it to a group of people. But when you want to have a one-to-one conversation or a one-to-one dialogue, it is better to have a private one-to-one message than a group message. And body language, very, very, very important, right? Body language is extremely important when you are in an organization, whether you're speaking to your co-workers, your bosses, your colleagues, or even people who are below you at, at the time when you join an organization and slowly mature or slowly experience and become a group leader or a team leader, you will have several people under you. Even those people who are working for you and under you in an organization, you should be able to have a good communication skills and a body language with the team. You cannot be a intimidator. You cannot put fear in your team's mind that, hey, my superior expects me to do this. No, it should be expectation is okay, but it should not be in a intimidating way. Then presentation skills. Of course, we have a separate topic on presentation, but there are so many traits which you need to imbibe to have a good presentation skills. Then something which you will see more in the next few bullet points is more in the bold. If it's a video call, turn on the video call. It's not a phone call. So you have to understand the difference between a video call and a phone call. Why? Because if it's a video call, people expect to see you. People expect to see you in a professional attire or a dress, not in a home t-shirt or a home dress, sitting on a sofa, for example, or a couch, but the laptop on your knees. No, that's not professional. You have to be on in a chair, in a regular desk, or at least even on a table. Any table is okay, but upright and with the good dress or a attire on, because it's a video call. If it's a phone call, of course nobody knows where you are. That's okay to when you have a phone call to take your phone wherever you are and in whichever situation you are in. But when it's a video call, make sure that you turn the video on. Check your calendar, respond. When somebody sends you a meeting notice, either you need to accept it, or if you cannot accept it because you're busy, it's okay to deny it and let the team know that you cannot attend the meeting. Don't accept it and then not join the meeting. That is unprofessional. So these are very important techniques and skills to know. Of course, when you deny something or when you deny a meeting notice or a meeting invite, do let them know why you're not able to attend. You may have another meeting at the same time, which is more important. It has already been set before, so you cannot accept a meeting notice which has come later, but on a particular day and a particular time which you are busy. So please do deny it if you cannot attend. Let the invitee know why you are not able to attend the meeting. Then similar thing, do not accept a meeting invite and then not show up. So it means that if you have accepted a meeting, you better show up to the meeting. Whoever asks you to then come to some other meeting or attend some other event, you have to ignore that because you've already accepted a previously set up meeting invite. So it's very important to adhere to what you have said to, especially when you say yes to attending a meeting. It's also again about trust, about reliability, about belief that you are serious about the meeting. Then it can happen that when you accept a meeting and you are scheduled to have a meeting with a team of people on a particular day and time. Unfortunately, if something happens that day morning or if the meeting is in the morning, early morning, or if it is a meeting is in later in that day, but in the morning, if somehow your personal situation changes, either you are sick, something else happens, you cannot attend the already scheduled and accepted meeting invite. It is extremely important for you, irrespective of whatever position you are in, to let the people know you cannot attend the meeting. You have to inform why you accepted, but you are not able to attend because something else has come up, which is either more urgent, more important, or there is some personal situation where you cannot come to office. You are on leave that day because you had to take leave that day. Could be any situation. But important thing is to let the person know that you cannot attend the meeting which you have already accepted and promised that you will attend the meeting. Then showing up for the meeting on time. Once again, no IST. No, when you say that you attend the meeting on time, you should attend the meeting on time. It means your previous meeting, your previous work, your previous assignment should finish, or you need to make sure that it finishes before and you attend the scheduled meeting on time. Because you're representing your company, your culture, your country, and your individual personality in this case. So it's extremely important to attend the meetings on time. Okay, I'll take a pause here for a minute. I've been speaking. Any question, any comment, anything not clear, anything you want to deep dive on? Any question? Anybody? Anything not clear? Or if everything clear, also you can say thumbs up. Any comment? I'm checking the comment box. No, no comment. Anybody? Anybody want to raise a hand? No question. Okay, no question. I will continue. Then we will take the questions at the end. Sorry for that. Go back to the presentation. Okay, Ben, we spoke about communication. So what's next? About business etiquette. So business etiquette is again, once again, about your etiquettes while you work with your partners in the company or your customers or stakeholders within the company or your clients. Most important, said in bold here, as I said before, saying no is not a bad thing. It means if somebody asks you to do something, but you cannot do it either in that particular time, or you just cannot do it because you're not the right to do it, or you don't have that right skill to do it, it's okay. Excuse me. It's okay to say no. So saying no is not a bad thing. Actually, be honest. And if you cannot do something, it's perfectly okay to say no. Because if you say yes and then don't do it, it's worse. So it's okay to say no. And saying no is not a bad thing at all. Then, of course, as having a good business etiquette will help you build long-term professional relationship with your co-workers, managers, clients, customers. We spoke about that before. We are representing the company brand, so let's make sure we create an impression. When you when you speak to your partners in the company or your client, customers, suppliers, whoever, you are actually representing your company and the company brand. That's extremely important because your company brand and your company reputation is in your hands when you are when you're representing the company. So the business etiquettes, the way you speak, the way you communicate, the way you dress, the way you are representing your company, it speaks for your company's culture and brand and reputation. So please bear in mind that you are representing your company whenever you are in front of your customers or partners or clients in an official meeting. or an event, or not only meeting, but in an event or a meeting or a engagement event. Then interaction with partners, kind of what we talked about. When on site, be punctual in reaching to office meetings, if possible, early. As I said, if you have a meeting at 10 o'clock, please make yourself available at 5 minutes before the meeting, 9:55. That's the best thing to do, so that you know and people know that you are for that meeting on time. Language issues, talk slow, summarize, pause to check if they have questions. Same thing what we talked about when you're making your a proposal to your team or to your management, but also to others who could be peers or partners or customers. You need to talk slowly. You need to make sure that you take a pause. Make sure you the people whom you are explaining to understand, and to check if you have any questions. Right? I took a pause in between to ask questions. Of course, you don't have any, that's fine. But I want to make sure that you understand what I'm trying to say. That's extremely important. Cultural differences. Be soft spoken. Don't raise your voice or don't have a very harsh voice, but speak loudly. Not very loud, but loud enough for people to hear what you are saying, and be specific. Take some time to be people. Take time to get to know people, and it's better to be to stick to professional speak before you open up on other topics. Then hygiene and cleanliness, and that we what I talked about before, also part of business etiquette, no doubt. This is a bit of a different characteristic what I wanted to explain on the Indian context. So many Indian workplaces have an informal culture. How can you balance professionalism with this informal environment? So in many companies, in many organizations, there is not a clear division between a formal and an informal way. Many are in informal culture. Then adopt a completely casual approach in all interactions. Maintain professional boundaries while also building rapport with colleagues. Be overly formal to demonstrate professionalism. Ignore office culture and focus solely on work. Can anybody tell me which of these characteristics you should imbibe and which you should not? Okay, I'll guide you. Point number A, strict no. Adopt a completely casual approach in all interaction. No. When you're in a professional environment, somewhat casual is okay, but you have to be professional. You have to make sure that you interact in a professional way. It means point number B, maintain professional boundaries. But okay to have some rapport with your colleagues over tea or a coffee or a snack, where you interact on some happenings outside of your organization, whether it is sport or politics or something. It's okay because that helps build rapport with your colleagues. But within the organization, you should definitely have some professional boundaries. It means you should not be completely casual approach in all your interactions. Be overly formal to demonstrate professionalism. Ignore office culture and focus solely on work. No, it's a strict no. You cannot ignore office culture. You have to still focus solely on work, but you need to understand your office culture. If it's very informal, you need to still focus solely on your work. That's extremely important. Then, what do you mean by be overly formal to demonstrate professionalism? You have to be formal, but not overly formal. A bit of a casual approach could be okay to build a interaction, but not completely casual approach. So these are some of the terms which you need to understand in the Indian context. Excuse me. The concept of saving face is important in Indian culture. How should this be considered in a professional setting? We always want to protect ourselves. We always want to save face. So prioritize serving your own image over organizational goals. Be mindful of others' reputations and avoid public criticism. Ignore the concept of saving grace. I think it's hidden and it's not relevant to professionalism. And use saving face as an excuse to avoid accountability. These are the strict things you need to be aware of and be cognizant of when you're working in the Indian context. Yeah. Go to the next slide. Yeah. Very important. Some other characteristics of professionalism. Time management. Very, very important. You have to plan your own work day, whether it is the day of the week or the time of the day, the week, your most productive time of the day. So you need to have your own personal time management when you're working in an organization. Also, you need to plan your relaxed periods in a release cycle. So you need to have some kind of a group of primary tasks and secondary tasks. So you need to know what your primary tasks are in your particular day of the time of the day or the day of the week and secondary tasks. Then meetings and discussions. Of course, you need to participate in meetings and discussions, but in some meetings and discussions where you think you're not going to be adding any value, it's okay not to be in that meeting, but let the presenter know that you will not be in that meeting. But when you are in a meeting, you need to add value to the meeting, not just attend the meeting, sit there for half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour, and then without contributing anything, walk away. That's not something which is appreciated well in any organization. So you have to be contributing to some task or some issue or some problem by adding your own value, unique value. Then, most important, respect your time and time of others. Is the most precious. Time is very precious, right? So respect the time. As I said, be on time, finish your meeting on time, make sure you utilize the time for productive discussion because everybody is going to be busy in an organization. But prioritization of time is very important. Any question? Any comment? Are we all together? Are we here? Everybody understanding what's happening? I just want to take a pause again. Any question, anyone? Okay, I'll just finish the presentation. So very few more things, nothing much. Yeah. So in the Indian context, sometimes what are the things which you need to bear in mind? One more thing is social media can impact your professional image. How can you use social media responsibly? This is extremely important. Why I wanted to cover this information is many times you may not understand social media to share company information, company specific data, or what happens in your office on your personal social media handle, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or even WhatsApp, is typically not a good idea. Of course, you can share all your personal information on social media. That's perfectly fine because it's your own prerogative. But maintain a professional online persona and be mindful of your content. It means you have to make sure that your professional information is not shared on social media. You have to be very mindful of the fact. Some things can be shared maybe on a LinkedIn profile or a Instagram account if it's a company common handle and something which will not give any competitive information to your potential competitor or to your competitor or some information which can harm your company's image in the eyes of the customer or your client or anything. You have to be very mindful of the data what you share. And you should never use social media platform to criticize your company or colleagues. Very important. Don't use the social media account to say something bad about your company or even worse, to say something bad about your colleagues in social media who are working with you. Sometimes it happens that you are not aware that these things happen, but these things do happen. So very important to make sure that you are cognizant of these facts. Then, of course, we know festival and religious occasions are very important in our culture. So how can you balance your work commitment with these celebrations? Never ignore work commitments during festivals. Because of course, festival time is holiday time. But if you have work commitment, you need to make sure that things are done and taken care of before you go on your holiday or on your festival. So what is important? Communicate with your employer about your availability during festivals. If you are in a remote location, you may not be available. It's good to let your uh, immediate supervisor or team leader or manager know, or your employer know whether you are available or not available, because there could be a business situation where you may be required to join a particular meeting even though it's on a holiday or something. But if you're not available, make sure that you let them know. Then expect special treatment from colleagues during festivals. No, because festival time in India is a festival time, but you cannot expect a special treatment from your colleagues just because it's a festival time. Overcommit yourself to prove your dedication during festival. Do not overcommit. If you're not available, say you're not available. But if you're available and you can be reached during some particular festival time, it's good to let your team know that you're available or not. So important thing here is, of course, during because of our culture, because of our religious festivals, we have to spend time, and especially in those areas where sometimes network is not available and connectivity is not available. Important thing here is to be when you're a professional, let your employer and your manager and your team know whether you're available or not available. And if you're available, at least you should be having that freedom within your social festival celebration, that you are spending some time to the call or a meeting if required. Yeah. Finally, personal brand. It means now we spoke about the company, your company priorities, your company goals, objectives, and how you represent yourself. Don't forget that you have your own personal brand as an individual. So always when you say something, it's your word. So keep the word. Don't go against your own promise or your own word. Then there are some things which are highly personal, as we spoke before. Keep it that way. Don't discuss with all. Personal things are purely personal. The goal is to create trust for life, trust amongst others, trust with people, trust with your colleagues, friends, workers, bosses, clients, everybody. So this is important. Your personal branding is extremely important when you're a professional. And finally, adding to that, the ethics. So be ethical, and trust me that you will be successful in your life, in any profession you are in. Okay, so that's my presentation for today. Again, we have time for questions and open session. Anybody, please raise your hand. Please unmute and ask a question or type in the box. Anything okay? I'll be glad to give some of my personal experience also if required. Any question, guys? Any topic you want me to explain a bit more, or anything okay? Because we still have 5 minutes to go. Okay, if no question, that's fine. We have an MCQ. We will send you across as a homework for this particular session. Please feel free to not feel free, but please do spend some time going through this and send us the feedback. That will be highly appreciated. If no question, we'll end the session now. And of course, you can reach us anytime if you have a particular question or a particular query regarding these two topics, both professionalism as well as roles in an organization. We are here to help. To reach out to us. So, if no question, we will end the call. Thank you all. Thank you for the time.